Hello heroes, and welcome back to the Guildhall. Today we're breaking down one of the most unique and powerful support specs in Ascension WoW, the Wind Stormbringer. Unlike most spellcasters, this spec isn't about raw damage, it's about backing up your team with powerful boons, crowd control, and your loyal Wind Servant, a summoned elemental that fights alongside you. You'll be boosting your allies with buffs that enhance performance, locking down enemies with movement impairments, and supporting your dungeon group or raid like a gust of calm in the chaos. Whether you're keeping the group alive during high pressure moments or controlling enemy movements to make life easier for your tanks and DPS, Wind is all about utility and precision. In this guide, I'll walk you through how to summon and manage your Wind Servant efficiently, which boons and spells to prioritize for maximum support, top REs, stat priorities, and talents for strong PvE presence, tips for excelling in dungeons and group content as a ranged support caster if you're ready to become the unseen force that carries your team to victory. Let's dive into the Wind Stormbringer build and master the power of the storm, heroes. Alright, let's start with our talent points. We're going to start with the left-hand side, as this is the one that doesn't change much from spec to spec. We have Cloudburst. This is a 1-minute cooldown, and it allows us to knock enemies away. In PvE, we don't really want this unless stuff really hits the fan. But in PvP, this can actually benefit you by getting the enemies away from you or your flag bearer. Spellstorm Mastery. This reduces the mana cost of all of our spells by 10%. This is fantastic, as this is going to make it to where we're keeping our mana up as much as possible during long fights, such as bosses and in raids. We're also going to grab up Studious. Casting Shock now generates 5 additional static. Static is the resource that we want that is going to allow us to do all of our big hits. We do grab Conjure Storm. Conjure Storm is a fantastic skill for all 3 builds as well, as this gives us more AoE ability. We're also going to pick up Conjuration Mastery. This reduces the cooldown of Conjure Storm by 5 seconds. We're going to get Altered Course. Discharge now increases movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. This can actually be a really big benefit, both in PvE and PvP. We're going to grab up Body of Lightning. This allows us to get a little bit more damage out there, as well as regenerating our mana. We're going to pick up Aviana's Blessing. Increases your critical strike chance and spell haste by 2%. That is extremely huge. The more critical strike chance we have, the more critical strikes we do, the more mana we can get back. I'll show you that node here in a minute. And then on top of all of that, we're getting haste, which means we're allowed to throw spells a lot faster. Storm Chaser. Dealing damage with Gale now reduces the cast time of your Arrow Blast by 15% for 10 seconds. Stacks 2 times, which is really good. We have Arcane Lightning, increases your nature and arcane damage dealt by 4%. That's all the damage types we do. Shocked to Life, Shock and Arrow Blast now heal you for 10% of the initial damage dealt. This is really good because this allows us to get a little bit more health back, so the healer's not having to do as much work for us. Invigorating Winds. This is our tank buff. We only ever throw this on the tank, guys. It's the best buff for them. But what this does is envelop an ally in Invigorating Winds, granting them immunity to silence and interrupt effects, dramatically reduces their threat, and reduces all damage they take by 20% for 8 seconds. Threat reduction does not apply to tanks, so as long as you're throwing this on your tank, they get all the other benefits and still keep their threat generation. Now, if you have a person who is pulling off the tank left, right, and center, and they are not the tank, absolutely pop this on them every chance you get. Electrocutioner. Your critical strikes with Gale make your next electrocute within 10 seconds usable, regardless of the target's health percentage. So, instead of it being they gotta be below 35% health to use electrocute, if we critical strike with Gale, we can use electrocute anyway. Dropping down another row. Improved Body of Lightning reduces the cooldown of your Body of Lightning by 15 seconds. Because the normal cooldown is like 45 seconds, we're getting it at 30. If I remember correctly. Yeah, we're getting it at 30. We have Storm Sorcery. Dealing damage with Arrow Blast or Torrential Wrath now increases the critical strike chance of all spells and attacks against the target by 3% for 10 seconds. So every time we do Arrow Blast, we do more damage. If you really wanted to, you could probably pop a point out of, say, like, um, you could probably take Thunder Ward out and put that in Torrential Wrath to give you another one. But I'm trying. We've already got enough skills that do depletion of static, so I opted out of that. But Arrow Blast will in fact increase our damage. Then we have Magic Elimination. Uh, Increases the amount of beneficial magic effects purged by your anti-magic pulse by 1 and is ranged by 10 yards. This was just a filler point. Again, this could come out too if you don't want it and throw it in something else. It's not that great for PvE. PvP, it does have its benefits when you're up against multiple targets or one of your allies has multiple things on them. Dropping down another row, we're going to get Stormcloak. This is another shield. Every 30 seconds, you can pop a shield, absorbing another 1,928 damage for 12 seconds. Stormcloak has a 60% chance to resist Dispel mechanics, which is great. Storm Channeling, your damaging critical strikes now restore 5% of your missing mana over 4 seconds. This is why you want critical strike chance to be as high as you can get it. Cap is 25%. We'll go over that in a little bit as well. We've got Thunder Ward, another shield for you, but it depletes all static, and you cannot generate static during this. It's a 3-minute cooldown, but encase yourself in an electric shield, removing and making you immune to all physical attacks and spells for 6 seconds. So if you're completely surrounded and you don't care about generating static, you're just trying to get out of dodge as fast as possible, you pop this, and you are immune for 6 seconds from all damage. We've got Storm Rider. Casting Cloud Ride now removes all root and slowing effects and makes you immune to them for 2 seconds. This is great in both PvE and PvP content. In PvE, when you get rooted to a spot and a boss or more adds are about to do a bunch of damage in one little spot, you can pop your Cloud Ride, get the heck out of dodge instead of being rooted to the spot. In PvP, it helps you, like if a enemy has something that can slow you, stun you, any of that kind of stuff. This gets you out of dodge as well and makes you immune to it. Whirlpool, summon a whirlpool in a 10-yard radius, pulling all nearby enemies in and slowing their movement speed by 60% for 5 seconds. After 3 seconds, enemy players in the area are knocked up into the air. This works in both PvE and PvP content. What's great about this, though, is you can throw it, run through it yourself. You don't take the debuff. Enemies trying to get to you will, in fact, take the debuff, and most times, before they can get out of it, they're sucked back to the middle, giving you plenty of chance to get the heck out of there. Concentrated Static. Casting Discharge now restores 5% more mana. So if we need mana in the middle of a fight, we have Discharge. This thing is going to give us a ton of mana back. Eye of the Tornado, your damaging critical strikes now refund 5 static. So now when we crit strike, we just get static back. It's another way of just getting a bunch of static here. Then we're going to have Surge Overlord. Your Gale now affects an additional enemy. So instead of it hitting 1 target, it now hits 2 targets, if I remember correctly. Lingering Lightning, increases the duration of your Storm Cloak by 2 seconds, and Conjure Storm and Body of Lightning by 5 seconds. Well, we're using 2 of those primarily. Stormcloak is a good shield, but having it for an additional 2 seconds is great. And then we have Thunder King. This is just one of our boss buttons that we get. Transform into the Thunder King for 20 seconds. Allows Arrow Blast to strike 3 enemies and increases movement speed by 35%. Generate 5 static every 1 second. While active, critical strikes deal bonus spell storm damage, scaling with spell power, and grant Raging Storm. Raging Storm increases the spell haste by 3%, stacking 10 times. So that is awesome. More haste, faster spells. So that is our left-hand tree. Let's move over to the right-hand tree real quick, and then we're going to cover what each spell can do. So we have Updraft. This is our primary attack here through this tree. Depletes 10 static, has 2 charges. Create an 8-yard Updraft at the target location for 25 seconds. Deals 679 nature damage over 25 seconds. So it just does a little bit of damage over time. Not a lot, but it's still damage over time. It's great. Aerodynamics depletes 40 static, has a 15-second cooldown. Envelop raid members within 40 yards in magical mist, increasing their attack or spell power by 15%, or by 15, sorry, for 15 seconds. Does not stack with similar effects. So if you have two wind Stormbringers in the group, if they both pop aerodynamics, it does not stack. Sorry. Or if you have another class that has something similar to that, does not stack with that either. We have Arrow Blast. Transforms Call Lightning to Arrow Blast. Depletes 50 static. Crush an enemy with the weight of the winds, dealing 310 nature damage to them. And then an additional time for 40% of the nature damage dealt after 1 second. So they get hit twice by this. Grants your Air Elemental a stack of Invigoration. Scales with modifiers to Call Lightning. Invigoration. Increases the damage of your Air Elemental by 3%. For 25 seconds, stacks 10 times. So it can get up to 30% more damage during that 25 seconds. We have Evergale. Reduces the cooldown of your aerodynamics by 10 seconds, which is good. That affects this guy. It's normally 25-second cooldown. It's down to a 15 because of this. Everlasting Invigoration increases the duration of Invigoration by 10 seconds. So now Invigoration, instead of it lasting, I'm guessing it was lasting a normal 15 seconds. Now it gets it to 25 seconds, which is great. We have Unshackle. This helps our Air Elemental. Transform your Air Elemental into a more powerful form for 14 seconds, increasing the damage dealt by 30% and spell haste by 36%, so it attacks faster. We have Gale. Transforms Crackle into Gale. Has 3 charges. Has an 8-second recharge timer per stack. Blast an enemy with a powerful gust of wind for 258 nature damage. Generates 20 static. Scales with modifiers to Crackle. Kiss of the Clouds. Depletes 40 static. Grant party and raid members within 40 yards a shield that absorbs 283 damage, scaling with intellect, for 10 seconds. While active, the target suffers no spell pushback from taking damage. Cloudy. Increases the base absorption effect of Kiss of the Clouds by 50%, so it's going to bump it up by quite a bit. Cyclone Recharge. Casting Shock now reduces the remaining cooldown of your Kiss of Clouds by 1 second. Gathered Energy. Damage dealt by your Gale now increases the damage of your Aeroblast by 2%, stacking 5 times for 10 seconds. Quick Draft. Increases the tick rate of your Updraft by 25%. Wrath of Al-Akir. Depleting static extends the duration of your Unshackle by 3 seconds, so the more static we deplete, the longer he gets to stay as a big air elemental. Unbound Elementalist. Increases the effectiveness of your Unshackle by 20%, so just increases all those stats again. That's why it's got weird numbers like 36% haste. Alright, Flow. Invigoration. It now stacks 5 additional times. So it gets up to, I think, 15 now. Unrelenting Gale. Aeroblast now refreshes a charge of Gale. In addition, the critical strike chance of Gale is increased by 10%. Comforting Winds. Your damage dealt now increases the haste of your air elemental by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking 5 times. Damage dealt by your air elemental now increases your haste by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking 5 times. Clear Skies. Increases chance to hit with all spells and attacks by 1% for you and party and raid members within 100 yards. Does not stack with similar effects. This one honestly could probably be swapped out if you have someone in your party that's got the 3% spell and attack hit chance. So just kind of want to play with that, see what's on. Aeromancy. Increase the damage of your updraft by 20%. Power of the Elements. Increases the damage dealt by your air elemental spells by 20%. Hurricane. Casting Unshackle now unshackles you, increasing your damage dealt by 15% for 8 seconds. We get Master Airbender. I love just the name of this one, to be honest with you. The Casting Gale now reduces the cooldown of abilities that deplete static by 1 second. This does not affect Updraft or Invigorating Surge. Master Elementalist. Increase the duration of Conjure Storm in Updraft by 10 seconds. Then we drop down and we get Free Wind. Transforms Eye of the Storm into Free Wind. Free Wind creates a massive gust of wind in a 20-yard line, dealing 667 nature damage, and slowing enemy movement by 30% and slightly pushing them back. Repeats every 3 seconds for 9 seconds. Then we also picked up Haven to boost Free Wind even further. Your Free Wind now deals 25% increased damage, and its cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds. Free Wind no longer pushes enemies back. If you like the pushback effect of Free Wind, I would go with like Nimbus, to be honest with you, or find a different point to put that in. Like you could grab Razor Wind, which destroys any damage absorbed effects and damage immunity effects on an enemy, which is great for PvP. You could come in here and grab this one, so when they move through it, they get 50% more movement speed. Or you can do this one where enemies go through it and they get an additional 50% slowed movement speed. So there's a couple other skills you could throw that point into if you're not interested in not doing the pushback. Even Windsurf would be good. That gets your elemental to come to you if he's stuck somewhere. Tailwind and Windsurf by 15-second cooldown. Gift of the Air. Casting Tailwind now impairs your air elemental with Gift of the Air for 30 seconds. In addition, your critical strikes now extend the duration of your Tailwind by 1.5 seconds. Gift of the Air increases damage dealt by 20%, spell haste by 15%, and heals for 70 every 2 seconds. This is actually a really good one, so if I wasn't running Haven and I wanted the pushback effect, I would probably grab Gift of the Air. Skyfall is another good one if you get points over to this side. But this is the way I built my guy. And then last but not least, what you get as you level. At level 10, you're going to get Summon Air Elemental. Then at level 15, you're going to get Aeroblast. Now increases the critical strike chance of allies within 100 yards by 5% for 10 seconds. So you want to make sure you are casting that at least every 10 seconds to keep that buff up. Lexicon of Servitude. This just allows you to summon Air Elemental if it dies for some reason. Becomes an instant casting, costs no mana. Tailwinds. Tap into the Swift Winds, increasing your damage by 10% and granting all allied players 5% increased haste for 15 seconds. Does not stack with similar effects. And then the last one is Surge of Might. This is a 1-minute cooldown. You get this. Does not tell me what level I get this. Oh, level 40. This one was level 30. So at level 40, emanate an aura around you for 15 seconds, causing allied players within 100 yards to deal 258 additional damage as nature damage when they deal direct damage. Applies exhaustion, preventing you from benefiting from similar effects for 1 minute. So this is kind of like in retail WoW, like the Drums of War or the Shami buff, which is escaping me for some reason. So now let's talk about each skill. And I will do this one at a time for what I'm doing. Our primary attack here is going to be Shock, which is just your static builder. Hits one target, but as you can see, it also gets quite a bit of damage going there. As we attack, let me put this guy on defensive. Our air elemental will automatically attack the same target we're attacking every time. And that's your basic attack. Just bam, and we got a crit on that one. That was nice. So that's that. Next, we have Aeroblast. This is the one that buffs everybody. So every time you have 50 static, you want to pop Aeroblast. Now, it gets a double hit with that. So if I pop it again, boom, you'll see it go down to hit, go back up, and then come down again. So just one more time on that one. You'll see it go up, come back down, and hit again. So that's Aeroblast. Next we have is Gale. Gale can hit multiple targets now, the way we've modified it. Look at that. It hit literally everybody over there. It gets a bunch of damage done up to it, and we get 3 stacks of it. When we critically strike, we get a free stack back. But Gale is going to be your AoE. There's a lot of stuff over here. I don't really need static right this second. I'm trying to get as much static built up. Sorry, I don't need shock. I need static, right? That's going to be our Gale. Next is going to be Free Wind. Free Wind was that skill that will pop, and it will sit here and do damage repeatedly, as long as we're a medium to close range. And it normally would have that knockback effect. Next, we've got our Body of Lightning. Body of Lightning is really good because as long as we are doing damage, you'll see these little extra bolts of lightning coming off of me. That's Body of Lightning doing its job. Turns us into an even more AoE style build, right? Next after that, this one's going to be Unshackle. This one, because we don't have our Electrocute up right now, but Electrocute is going to be our it's our execution skill. When it gets below 35% health, you'll notice that we can pop it. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It's not really designed to until it crits. But you can pop this forever as long as they're below 35% health. So next one is going to be Unshackle. That turns him into Big Boy. And you can see he's now swinging a little bit faster. He's got more attack types. He's doing a little bit more damage for us. He's pretty darn strong. And we get to keep him that way for a total of 15 seconds. Next is going to be Tailwind. Tap into the Swift Winds. This is going to be one of our buffs that we get. I typically try to put all of my buffs that need to be popped continuously over on this side. But I had to do a whole bunch of buffs because that's all this build is. But Tailwind, this thing right here is going to buff everybody so that they do more damage. So if I pop that, now our Air Elemental does a little bit more damage. And so do we when we attack things. We're going to do a little bit more damage. All of our party members are going to do a little bit more damage. It's great, right? So let's get our static back up so we can talk about the next skill. So the next skill that we have is called Aerodynamics. This is the one that depletes 40 static and it envelops everybody, increasing their spell and attack power by 150 for 15 seconds. So we pop that. And now everybody for 15 seconds is going to be doing even more damage. So as you can see, I can couple a lot of damaging skills just in 2 to make sure my whole party is doing more damage the entire fight. Next, we're going to talk about Surge of Might. Surge of Might is a self-buff for us, but it affects everybody else. This is like that Drum of War I was talking about. You pop this, and again, everybody is going to have more spell haste, more damage, more crit. You're getting a whole bunch of benefit from this. So, additional damage is nature damage when they deal direct damage. So, yay, right? More damage is always good. The next 2 skills I'm going to talk about are going to be Conjure Storm and Updraft. I have a macro for each so that I can cast this wherever my mouse is at. So if I hit Conjure Storm, it throws it right over there because my mouse is right on top of those guys. If I move my mouse over here and I throw Updraft, it threw it over there. Or I can aim it back over here and throw another one. So as you can see, having macros can make it a little bit easier for you to get things thrown. That's pretty much everything I use for the storm or the Wind Stormbringer. That's my primary setup there. As you can see down here, I've got some other buttons. I've got my boss killer button here. I'm going to change that and add some more stuff to it later. We've got Kiss of the Clouds, which we really didn't use, but it's another buff that we can pop. This thing gives us our shield. Looks like this. Gives us our little bubble shield. Because of all of our stats, it absorbs 1100 damage. We've got 2 buffs that we can constantly keep on us and the party. You've got Greater Call of the Wind. This increases mana regeneration. And then this one right here increases the armor contribution and our spell haste. So having both of those on everybody is a fantastic idea when you're in raids. We also have Electrify. So electrify allies within 40 yards, increasing their haste by 30% for 20 seconds. This is a 10-minute cooldown. So this one is use it during boss fights. I actually have that inside our boss button there. So that's everything there. To quickly go over stats. Now, I don't have the best perfect setup. I have no enchants going right now. Intellect is definitely our primary because that's going to give us our spell crit and our mana so that we can use more spells. When it comes to spells specifically. Bonus damage is always good. That's based on spell power, but it is not a necessity over spell healing. Just to let you know. Hit is a big one. Technically, we only need to be at roughly about 8%. We're at 12% right now, which is fine. If we get to 17%, that's where raid bosses are. So if you're doing raids or mythic pluses, you want to get to that 17%. Penetration is good because it reduces enemies' resistance to us, but it is not going to be our big one. Our big ones are hit rating, haste rating, and crit. Crit, 25% is going to be your hard cap. 20% is your soft cap. So we want to try and get this to 20% so that we're critting more often. 25% is your hard cap. Haste rating, this just allows us to throw spells a little bit faster. So as much haste rating as you can get is yay. The only downside is you cannot get a spell below 1 second. That's the global cooldown for it. Spell penetration, like I said, is good, but it is not a necessity unless you're PvPing. This makes it to where you can hit somebody through their armor. That's that. So those are all the stats that I have for you guys. If you need anything else, don't hesitate. Let me know what build you guys want to see in the next video. But that is our entire wrap-up of the Stormbringer heroes. If you're looking to bring real value to your team in dungeons and raids, this is the spec for you. The utility, the boons, crowd control, the awesome wind serpent all come together to create one of the most supportive and strategic playstyles in Ascension. If this guide helped you out, make sure you drop a like, hit a subscribe, and leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear how you are building your wind spec or what spec you're building. I'd love to hear as well. We've got a ton more build guides coming, so keep tuned for that. And until next time, heroes, stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time, guildies. Peace out.